All right, folks, here we go on this Wednesday. We are going to officially start coming up in just about 10 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, somewhere in there, probably around 108. We're going to talk with Vic Mellor, who is running for Congress, who I'm voting for, who's running for Congress. We need him in Congress. Rhode Island is calling for him to go to Congress. Now, we're also going to cover, obviously, the big national story with Rep. Omar. I'm going to give you the latest on how about the Pawtucket rep who's in Minneapolis today. Meg Kalman is in Minneapolis today to go after the ICE agents. Ludicrous. State Senator Tiara Mack is now encouraging everyone to donate to Representative Omar. Wow, you'd almost think that that was coordinated. We will touch on that and also the latest on Manton. So now, right now, we are live on X and we're live on YouTube and we're live on Facebook. And in just a moment, coming up now, we're 5 minutes out, we're going to be live on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. You can always listen online at the website, depetro.com. Folks, again, record traffic on all of our platforms as we just continue to grow. But we're not going to spend the entire hour on the situation in Minneapolis. In my mind, as I've talked about, I'm glad that Tom Homan is out there. Tom Homan, who, as many of you know, has been a guest on the program for, at least 6 times. Let me put it. And by the way, and Tom Homan also is friendly with Vic Mellor, who we're going to talk to. Let me put it this way. I think this is the easiest way. If I saw Tom Homan, we would know who each other were. He's obviously very busy at the moment. I think this was a big move by the president getting him out there. Folks, we can't. How much more of this new year are we going to be talking about Minneapolis? I can't keep talking about it. I'm not going to talk about it, as a matter of fact. So, as a country, as I've talked about, I visited there at least once. I'm trying to remember, maybe twice. I went there in January. And you know what my takeaway was? I'm never coming here again. It's actually what they have been doing there is kind of what Rhode Island has been doing. Now, we're not going to get into the weeds on that, but when you look at who would want to live in Minneapolis where it's 30 below, 40 below, it's not for me. And it is odd. Why would all these people from Somalia, why would they go there? Well, if you could, here's the deal. If you come here, we'll make you a millionaire. That could get them. Much like the way that a lot of people, Rhode Island lost population, and then they made it up by sanctuary state status and then trying to lure people in. I believe that they have uncovered what is going on out there. So, but with Vic Mellor, we're going to talk about, right now, unless something changes, Seth Magaziner, Congressman Magaziner, he is on board for shutting down the government. I'm telling you right now, I want someone in Congress who's not going to vote to shut down the government. President Trump was in Iowa yesterday. He's talking about the importance of the midterms. That's exactly what we're talking about. President Trump is going to campaign like he's on the ballot for the midterms. That's what we're talking about. So we need to change things. And, I'll also say, I believe I would like to have someone representing me in Washington. First of all, I'd like someone representing me because right now, like many of you, I have no one representing me. But I would not only like someone, and this is going to be my litmus test. I'm only voting for someone who's going to support the president and his initiatives. We don't need any more people just obstructing in D.C. We've had enough of that. So, and President Trump out there, look at this. He's saying the midterms are underway. Let's go. And so, and I'll also, yes, thank you, Bendy. Listen, we're not going to regurgitate. I know everyone keeps seeing the videos. People are going to believe what they're going to want to believe. So we've gotten a lot more information obviously, about what has transpired out there, but we're going to be starting in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and where's Oh, good. Okay. Yes. Government shutdown. President is stressing the midterms. Aren't you tired of having, like, do you understand? Seth Magazine, he doesn't even look at your emails. He deletes them. You call, delete. I want someone who's actually going to listen. I want someone who's going to work with Marco Rubio. And I want someone that's going to say to Tom Homan, let me know if we can help you in any way. Because, folks, the polls show that people want to support the president, what he got in on. Now, no, obviously, and I also want, no, obviously, no one is happy with what happened with these individuals, and especially the guy on Saturday. No one's happy about that. The president's not happy about that. But that's why Tom Homan is there. And I like that the president, let's slow things down a little bit, right? Let's call a timeout. We're going to, switch, call a different play and send somebody in there. And I think, short of bringing in General Flynn, I think they have the right individual. But I want you to, before we're going to start in just 1 minute, but I also want you to realize that, and you have to decide. I mean, look at this rep from Pawtucket. I'm not going to go on and on the situation on Manton Avenue. I do have an update on that, by the way. But to me, the fact that not one elected, a 51-year-old man was beaten to death by 4 kids they're younger than 13. Not one elected official has talked about it. So the MIT professor was shot and killed. Brookline, that was front page of the paper. This was an 11-year-old was the ringleader. You have the rep from Pawtucket flying out to Minneapolis. You have Cranston had a shooting with a kid from Providence. Yesterday was the shooting that we covered. All right, folks, let's begin. Well, good afternoon, everybody. On this, it's sunny but cold Wednesday. Now, what I want you to think about are, and it's not just today, and it's not just tomorrow, but what's the breaking point? When do you get tired of not being represented? When do you get tired? When is enough? In 1980, when President Reagan stood on that stage next to Jimmy Carter and said, ask yourself, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And that's how I feel. When do we get someone who's going to represent us in D.C., not someone who's just an attack dog for the Democrat Party? Now, joining us right now, he would like to be representing you in D.C. He is running for Congress, and we're going to find out. I don't know what the answer is. Would he vote to shut down the government? So he's joining us right now. He is Republican Vic Mellor joining us. Vic, I want to start off, and I'm just going to come out of the box. Your opinion, your question. If we send you down to D.C., would you go along with Congressman Seth Magaziner, or would you vote to shut down the government?
I would absolutely not vote to shut down the government. Absolutely not. This is all ideological. This is all, he's going to push it all to healthcare, which is, the cost of healthcare, which his dad created, the Obamacare. So, this runs in the family with him. He's just an ideologue talking point at this time. He does what he's told by the machine. And that's not what I'm going to represent at all.
So just, and not to put you on the spot, but so you're down in D.C. Let's just follow me now. And there it is, the Rhode Island delegation. You're with Congressman Gabe Amo. You're with Senators Reid and Whitehouse. And Sheldon Whitehouse looks at you and says, all right, now remember, we're the Rhode Island delegation. We're all going to vote to shut down the government. What does Republican Congressman Vic Mellor say?
I say no. I've met them all already, and they do not like me already because they know I represent the complete opposite of what they are. I will be going to D.C. to codify President Trump's agenda, because his America First agenda, which is exactly what I want, and I've changed my campaign logos to Rhode Island First. you are going to be seeing it everywhere because Rhode Island deserves to be first. And you see, I'm representing the New England Patriots.
Look at that. I love it.
All right.
Look at that. The big guy.
They went from last to first, and Rhode Island's going to do the exact same thing. We can do this. If we work together and we get everybody out to vote, we can go from last to first also.
I love it. Now, folks, Vic is very modest, but I'll just drop it in. I happen to know that you were good friends with Super Bowl champion, former Patriot, Matt Light. Not to, again, put you on the spot, but could you just touch on that?
Oh, yeah. Matt's a great guy. I do a lot with charity and kids, and he does a tremendous job with troubled kids out in Ohio and in Rhode Island. And I met him through General Flynn, and we've been really good friends for 3 years now. And so Matt is also going to be a speaker in my Rhode Island First rallies that we are starting on March 7th.
Here we go.
Yeah. So and this is going. I got 5 rallies coming up. It's going to last all the way up to the election. And Rhode Island first, Rhode Island first, Rhode Island first, Rhode Island first. We can do this together.
I love it. Folks, again, it's Vic Mellor, and he's running Republican for Congress. Vic, I also want to ask you, one of the largest complaints I hear is Congressman Seth Magaziner that they don't return phone calls. If you didn't vote for him or if you're a Trump supporter, you don't return phone calls. I noticed that people seem to really like, and someone that has kind of struck a nerve is Senator John Fetterman, Democrat, Pennsylvania, who he seems to just represent everyone in his district. If, in fact, you're sent to Congress, would you carry on the tradition of Congressman Magaziner by not returning phone calls from people from the other party?
Oh, no. So I started my listening tour in August, okay, and I've spoken to thousands of Rhode Islanders, regardless of what party they're on, and I'm listening to everyone because I'm going to represent everybody in Rhode Island. I know I'm going to be elected in CD2, but everything I'm going to bring is going to represent Rhode Island. So I need to know the pulse from everybody. So I'm going to listen to everybody.
I also want to ask you about, you mentioned Matt Light, former New England Patriot, Super Bowl champ, and the great work, I think it's the Light Foundation that he does with children. And Vic, I recognize that what happened on Manton Avenue in Providence, I recognize I don't think that falls in CD2, but you did have the shooting in Cranston. A 16-year-old they arrested, shot up the house. But the story in Providence, of which, by the way, and I want everyone to understand, not one elected official has commented. But Vic, you're talking about 4 kids, all under the age of 13. To me, I mean, that's what everyone should be talking about, is how do we stop the next group of young kids talk about going down the wrong path? 4 kids under 13 now facing murder charges.
Well, it starts with accountability in the judiciary, right? So, I mean, when they see people getting arrested 10, 20, 30, 40, there's one lady 2 months ago, she was arrested 100 times.
That's right.
They're not being held accountable. And the kids know they can just do whatever they want to do. And the other aspect to this is the gangs, right? The gangs where they're over 18, they incorporate the kids that are under because they won't get in as much trouble because they're minors.
That's right.
And they prop them up and they protect them in the streets. So Rhode Island PD does a great job of controlling the gangs. They really do. They really do. It's one of the lower numbers in the country. But that's based on the police departments. But there's still more we can do. But the police departments can't control what the judges do. If the judges keep letting people out, letting them out, they know they're not going to get in trouble. So everything's based on accountability.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That was the woman in Coventry, death resulting, hit that man that was out walking his dog. She had been interactions with police over 100 times. And that's another thing that Congressman Magazine had never even touched on. Now let's talk about Minneapolis. I happen to know that Tom Homan is a big fan of Vic Mellor. Do you care to share a little bit about that relationship you've built with him?
Well, we know each other. Just like when you see him, you're going to know who each other are. We run in the same circles, the General Flynn circle, the Patrick Byrne circles. They're in trouble there. Tom is a man of his word, and he is people say I'm hardcore, right? Tom Homan is hardcore with the experience.
Yep.
For years and years and years. Obama gave him an award for doing what he's doing right now. So they're messing with the wrong guy right now, and they think that he's going there and it's going to get easier. It's going to get harder. It's going to get harder for them, and it should get harder because that place is. I'm going to use the word, filth. It's filth and corruption. It's everything bad that government represents is representing right now in Minnesota, and it needs to be destroyed.
Vic, Rep Omar is doing a town hall. Everyone has seen it now. Guy stands up, throws water on her, walks out. What's Vic Mellor's reaction to that?
Well, nobody likes any kind of violence, but honestly, I don't really care about anything she does. She has just lost any kind of trust factor with, I'm going to say, 95% of Americans.
Yep.
So is it staged? Is it not staged? I mean, you hope. Listen, my address has been doxxed 17 times already.
Wow.
Okay. And I'm just barely in the race. So that's coming from the top down.
Yes.
And it's going to get worse. The last one is like, there's no sign of his wife and kids at the house. So this is what we're playing with.
Yeah.
And we need to get away from it. And most of the violence, I mean, 90%, if not higher, is a left triggered thing. So they're responsible for this, and they need to be held accountable for it.
Finally, Vic, you must have been encouraged, I would think, that there's President Trump, Iowa yesterday. He's out on the campaign trail. He's saying he wants everyone zeroed in, dialed in on the midterms. And I want everyone to know, I happen to know, that the White House, they would love to see Rhode Island have a Republican in Congress, actually New England in Congress. You must be pretty juiced that President Trump is saying everybody needs to get out. We need to win the midterms.
Oh, well, yes, that's the message. A lot of Republicans don't vote in Rhode Island because they're so disenfranchised. So Trump got 45% of the vote in CD2 in 24 without coming here. And the candidate before me only spending $3,000. This race I'm involved in is going to be the most expensive race in the history of Rhode Island. This is going to break $20 million. I guarantee you. Okay. So we are going to get people's attention.
Good.
Trump, I can tell you right now, and you already know, is they're watching Rhode Island.
Oh, big time.
As they should.
Yeah.
So my internal polls have, we're not going to get too much into the polls, but Magazina has them same polls also. That's why he's already actively campaigning against me, because he knows what's coming down the road. And I love that Trump's getting it out there. Let's do this. We have to do this.
Yeah.
And we're going to get him to Rhode Island. I promise you that. Okay?
At the very least, I'd look forward to, I know they're talking about some kind of convention in the summertime. I know you're going to be on that stage as they're going to bring out the slate. Vic, everyone is asking, how can they learn more about your campaign? How can people get in touch with Vic Mellor?
VicMellor.com. VicMellor.com. That's the best way.
Great job. Keep up the good work. I'm hearing good stories of people, of you out there, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, folks, there it is. Vic Mellor right here. Now, I also want to just really emphasize that it's obviously everyone's choice, but I mean, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of we have no representation. I mean, I don't have any representation. And actually, if you're listening and watching, do you really feel Sheldon Whitehouse is representing you? Do you feel Gabe Amo is representing you? I do not feel that Seth Magaziner represents me. Now, folks, that is, again, Vic Mellor. This portion of the program, check out, you see those of you that are watching the Chiron, DePietro.com. Now, we have a link to the video. I initially put it up on Facebook, but Facebook is so sensitive. So, but this is the link. It's a Guatemalan reporter who I communicate with. And I'll give him credit. Anyone, if you were watching Road Patrol last week, I was right there on Manton Avenue where it happened. What I didn't tell you was then I had been there then earlier in the day, but I ran into a language barrier, and I ran into a language barrier, and I'm not upset about it. I'm just telling you that I was trying Google Translate. So, but I give them credit. So, his name is JJ. He was able to get the video. I saw him yesterday in Providence. He and I communicating. I think he was even in our chat yesterday. So, I think so, Bruce. I think so. I think Vic would. So that's right. So, but we do have the video, and if you look at the video, and he showed it to me, and then he sent it to me. So, but it's on YouTube. So the way you can see, if you want to see how it transpired on Manton Avenue, you see the four of them coming up the street. They're coming up Manton. They leave Teresa, and then they're at Pope. And then right there at the intersection of Pope and Manton Avenue. Now that, for those that don't know, that it's Oneyville. I say it's the Manton section, but it's really Oneyville. And they have an interaction with the 51-year-old man, Ronnie. And when they have that interaction, the way I looked at it was it looked like that the 11-year-old, he's the one in the blue jacket. And he's also the one who I'm not gonna name him. I'm not gonna name him, but and people are asking about whether we blurred out their faces and so forth. That's the way it works. That's the way it works with juveniles, and they are juveniles. There they are, the Manton Force. So see the one in the blue right there? He's 11. So 12-year-old with the basketball, 12-year-old, 12-year-old. They're coming up Manton, and this was right before they encountered Ronnie, who then, who was so the 11-year-old has the encounter with him, and then Ronnie just keeps walking down Manton Avenue, and he's almost emboldened. So we don't know if Ronnie had said like, "Hey," and pushed him back or "Get away from me," or something like that. I don't know how to, but the 11-year-old, the one in the blue, he was definitely encouraged, seemed to me. That's the way I saw the video, encouraged that I can push this guy or hit. I think he hit him and he didn't do anything. So then the 51-year-old man keeps walking down Manton Avenue. He's going to go into Oneyville Square or thereabouts. And then the 11-year-old, we have this on the website, depetro.com. He's in 6th grade at Del Sesto Middle School. And I know from a parent at the school that this 11-year-old, he had been threatening, he was known to police, he was threatening to kill kids at the school. I talked to a mother that they went to they went to the police. They were so afraid about, what was going on and what is this kid talking about and that type of thing. So he chases him and he's yelling to the other three because they want to stay in a pack, but it's the 11-year-old in the blue. He's the one that knocks him down, and then the three of them follow suit, and then they're all stomping on him. So by the way, it's not that violent. It's really not violent. And the only reason you know of what happened is because we know what happened, but there's nothing gory about it. And it's to the right where you see them like cross, and you just, how horrifying it must have been for the 51-year-old man, Ronnie Alonso. Which, by the way, I do believe we're going to interview the family. We're working on that. I think I'm going to interview the man who was killed. We're going to interview his family. Again, we'll work around it. A little bit of a language barrier, but we'll work through it. But he's really he's the one that knocked him down. And what is so frightening is that the other three, they're 12. You would have thought someone could have said like, whoa, 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 we're not doing this, or help him up. Or now I know people are saying people are driving by, but it's kind of dark. If you see the video, here's the thing. If we want to deal in reality, there are people that sometimes lay on the ground around there. I'm not saying it's pleasant. I'm not making excuses for people that drove by. Not everyone drove by. Some people that saw it called the police. Some people that saw it, they didn't know how old they were. And it's very possible as soon as he hit the ground, he was knocked unconscious. He could have been impaired. He wasn't driving, meaning the 51-year-old man. He was walking. But there are people that pass out around there. Those of you that watch Road Patrol Live, sometimes when we're out that area, they'll say there's someone lying there, and then the police pull up, and someone that could be impaired in some way, whatever substance or alcohol and so forth. So if you see it, if you go to the website depetro.com, which is right at the bottom, you can see the video. I had it on Facebook, but here's the thing, folks. Things are flying so well on Facebook and TikTok. And I just, it's hard. If you're in my situation, and first of all, yeah, we blacked out their faces. I know people are saying, don't blur them out. It's the law. It just is. And so, I mean, obviously I have the picture. I'm the one that colored in, blacked out their faces. But my point is, if you log on to depetro.com, you'll see the video. It links to our YouTube page. I didn't put it on TikTok or Facebook just because you never know. Suddenly these platforms can be very, oh, that's too violent. If you're posting violent content, now you can't go live for, a week or whatever. So I'm not going through that. So we have it available, and I will, if you're a subscriber, you're going to know in advance. I think we're going to interview the family. That's what we're working towards. And I also want to, people are asking me about their status. Listen, do you understand? The police aren't giving any names. The police aren't giving any photos. The police did not even tell us that they arraigned 2 of them in court. So people are asking, are the parents illegal? Like, what part of that do you not understand? They're not giving names. They're not giving photos. I found out who it is. I have the photo, right? But these people, are the parents that I don't know what part of the police are not giving any information about the parents or even the boys to anyone. And for anyone that's talking about the parents, listen, I understand anger, and it's so terrible and cruel. But the parents are not going to jail. We don't have laws like that. And for those that, as I've said, I like to live in reality. I like to deal in reality. I like to give you reality. So they're facing murder conspiracy. They're very serious charges, no doubt about it. But let's see where this plays out, because it's very possible that one of this 4 turns on the 11-year-old. Right? Turns on him. Possible. They may not need them to. But a couple of things. Let me just stay on schedule. And then, by the way, tomorrow we'll talk with Stephanie Murphy, our legal analyst. But I want to talk about, I don't think people, it's so tough with the page because we get people from all over the country. And with TikTok, we get people from all over the world. And so sometimes on Facebook, but people put out things that we do have people live in the South that I don't think they understand exactly how Rhode Island operates. But folks, this portion of the program was brought to you by Propane Plus. Call them today, 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus, and always online 24/7 at propaneplus.com. Let me do one more. And then I want to tell you about these people that are putting they should get life. Capital Fence. Someone asked me about this. I encourage you to protect your home, your business, or your property. Capital Fence. Call my friend owner Mike Rizzo. Free estimate, 401-618-4407. That's right. You had a 16-year-old from Providence shot up a house in Cranston. Folks, as I've told you, the crime is spreading to the suburbs. Capital Fence, online at capitalfenceri.com. Fence or gate, most trusted for privacy security. Call Mike Rizzo. I know him. He's great. 401-618-4407. I may meet him out there at your house or business. when he's doing the free estimate. Installation, durable, automated gates, highest quality, licensed and insured, any type of fence. Capital fence, 401-618-4407. Let me explain something. And this may seem like a surprise. I get it. And I get it from some of the people that are commenting about the youth. Okay. You got to understand, in Rhode Island, life in prison in Rhode Island, and Massachusetts is actually, Rhode Island and Massachusetts, the laws are actually pretty similar. But here's what you need to understand. In Rhode Island, life in prison is 25 years. I know people say, what about Craig Price? That is like, that's the exception to the rule. There's a couple that are exceptions. But Craig Price, that was 2 women, 2 young girls, right? It was the first one, Rebecca Spencer, and then, then the mother with the 2 daughters. That's 4. And the thing about Craig Price, you got to realize is he confessed. They have audio of him. He thought, oh, I'm a juvenile. You can't do anything. But that's you can't base things on, look how far back you had to go on Craig Price. When you have an habitual offender like Freddie Bishop, okay, he's a lifer. But you can understand life in prison in Rhode Island is 25 years. And if you behave yourself, you're out in 15. That's just the way it is. If you want to change the law, it starts at the State House. And that's if you get life in prison. If you get 20 years behind bars, that they're doing 10. If somebody gets 15 years, guilty, sentenced to 15 years, they're out in under 8. So, and that's for adult crimes. So let's just say these 4, the Manton 4, let's make them, they're 18. They may make them 18. Hold on. Sorry about that. And there we go. Let's make them 18. 18 based on what we learned. Maybe 20 years, maybe. Probably knocked down to a manslaughter. I don't know if they're going to make a deal, but like the first degree murder is 25 life. So that's, someone plotting and planning and the whole deal. That's what like Mark Perkins is facing. So, but the encounter on the street, now they're juveniles. And again, I'm just trying to deal in reality. We'll talk to Stephanie tomorrow, but I was speaking with someone yesterday. We were speculating the 11-year-old, maybe 10, maybe less than 10 out at 18. The 12-year-olds, how long are they? Maybe they all get the same sentence, but I don't know, 7 to 8, 7 to 10, somewhere in there. I'm trying to, you can get, these aren't my laws, by the way, but do you understand? Like, look at what's happening, right? You have David Morales, who's running for mayor of Providence. He hasn't even acknowledged that this happened. I believe I know there's something broken with, you have those 2 students, I also want to just mention, that was very refreshing to hear Vic Mellor, Republican running for Congress, mention the woman in Coventry who she had been arrested 100 times and she was still driving and she killed that man driving with the dog. Seth Magazine, you never hear our local elected officials mention stuff like that. Never. We know the reaction when 2 students from Brown were killed, right? Look at the reaction to that. But no reaction that 2 students from Bryant University were killed by a wrong-way driver. Not one elected official has mentioned them. Not one. Not 5. Not 6. Not one. The next one to mention the 2 Bryant University students killed by a wrong way driver. The next elected official that mentioned that will be the first. Not one elected official has mentioned that a 51-year-old man was killed by these 4 on Manton Avenue the night of Martin Luther King. Not one. And Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos, she lives half a mile from where this happened. Silence. Now, I don't need to get into the whole we already know the answer. Right? I mean, I don't need to get into but we could do it. I've already even talked about it. Let's make them white. Let's make the individual that was killed, make him a trans, make him gay, make him black, make him Latino, make him entirely different reaction. But a 51-year-old man from Guatemala is killed by these 4 on Manton Avenue. Silence. David Morales is running for mayor of Providence, hasn't even mentioned it. I mean, it is just, to me, it's unbelievable because we're talking, and again, the one in the blue coat is 11. The one in the blue coat is 11. But I need people are posting, don't blur out the faces. That's the law. I'm not, it's not worth getting into a jam on something like that. And we don't, not only people asking me now, who are these, who are the parents? And they're not giving out the names or photos. I was able to get the name and photo. All right. I want to talk about this one for a moment, but I want to stay on schedule. I like to stay on schedule. And I want to remind you about Kids Club. Kids Club on the Pike. I'll do Watson in a moment. Folks, remember, birthday parties, but also if you're looking for options for daycare or before and after school care, preschool, maybe for your children or grandchildren, Kids Club on the Pike. Now, they have half and full day program for preschool children ages through 5. They also provide transportation before and after care for school-age children ages 5 through 12. It's Kids Club on the Pike. Now, call them, and they're located right off of 295 on the Cranston-Johnston line. Call Kristen, 401-443-5336. They also have a location in Warwick. Kids Club on the Pike. It's worth it to have an option for daycare and not a fake, fraudulent Somali daycare. Kids Club on the Pike. Now, I want to mention about Rep Omar. And again, stay with me just for a moment. We have this crew. And then you have her. I'll say this about Rep Omar. As she said one thing about people throwing things at these ICE agents. Nothing. Gabe Amo, right, Congressman, they're all upset that some guy walked up to the front of the room. I don't know if it was staged. And essentially threw water on her. Okay. So you have the rep from Pawtucket, Kalman, is flying out to fight the ICE agents. So stay with me just for a moment. So look at the reaction. There she is. State Senator. She's there right now in Minneapolis. Can you imagine? Megan Coleman. We will not let this stand. Ready to fight ICE. Absurd. If she's your rep, she's a state senator, state senator. You should be embarrassed. So you have the situation with Omar, right? Can you imagine how upset she's already flying out? Then you have this, State Senator Tiara Mack. This is terrible what happened to her. And by the way, everyone needs to donate to her. Act Blue. Stay with me for a moment. Tiara Mack, some idiot went up and threw water on Omar, right? Tiara Mack outraged. Gabe Amo outraged. They're all outraged. I'm going to imagine Coleman's outraged. But Mack, video. Somebody threw water on Omar, let alone she's neck deep in all the Somali daycare fraud. So As someone posted, she's got 30 million reasons to try to get a distraction going, meaning Omar. But they're all outraged. Tara Mack video, the whole thing. I can't even keep track. Ready? They beat to death a 51-year-old man in Oneyville on Manton Avenue. Tackled him, beat him to death. No knife, no gun, punching, kicking him to death. Silence. Let's pull up the video talking about that from State Senator Tara Mack. Silence. Kalman from Pawtucket is in Minneapolis today, marching around. Can you imagine marching around with those people? Unimaginable to me, like totally unimaginable. Laughable how unimaginable it is. But silent on this one. I am telling you, hilarious. It is about the element of this leads to fundraising. So that's why I don't think was this staged. I don't know. But if everything's about the money, I posted that video, State Senator Tara Mack. It's so important for everybody to donate to Representative Omar. By the way, State Senator Tara Mack, I have the video on the page. She also blames President Trump for this, right? We don't have to get into who is it. President Trump was shot by this side. Charlie Kirk was murdered by these people, by them and their supporters, in essence, through what they put out. Charlie Kirk was murdered because of things said, and I'm not saying directly from State Senator Tara Mack, but I think you understand, just the diatribe, that they put out. So the violent side is that side. Now, none of them want to talk about what we've learned. Boy, the narrative on the nurse has changed. The narrative on the nurse, that's interesting. Huh. Last week, he had a broken rib. For what? For wrestling with police. One thing I want to dispel is, and this is so important, I want to be very clear. Like they make so you're saying he deserved to die. I'm not saying he deserved to die. You know what else? The 51-year-old man didn't deserve to die either. But let's just say they're all upset. Governor McKee, Matos, she's flying to Minneapolis because of Alex Pretty. So, but it's very, he was on the radar with the feds. He was part of that Signal chat. He was one of the instigators where they were organized resistance. And this is, if you take away anything, and you can disagree or whatever, but the one thing there was no protest. This business, it's all a false narrative. There was no protest. You can look at the video. They weren't, it's him and the two women, heavyset Ozempic candidates with the goggles on. There were the three of them. And they were there to obstruct, impede, and interfere with federal agents. That is a fact. The protest happened after he was shot. But if we just play this out for a moment, the fact that he had been wrestling with ICE agents, and actually he had his rib broken, and he did tell a friend of his, I thought I was going to die from a broken rib. Talk about a drama queen. But suddenly he goes back to a scene, and he's not at a protest. He's where they are. And he recognizes them, and then they write, oh, here he comes. Here's this guy again. The guy that we had to wrestle to the ground. But the nurse, he was prepared this time. Oh, now he's ready to rock and roll. Like, oh, okay. Remember Bernard Getz, the subway shooter? He was mugged and robbed in New York City. What did he do? He drove to, I think, Vermont and got a handgun and drove back to New York. And Bernard Getz, who was mugged and robbed on the subway, he started riding the subway, and this time he had a full loaded weapon. He was waiting. And day one, nothing happens. Day two, nothing happens. And then later in the week, as he's ready, these guys come up and say, "Hey, man, do you have any money for it?" And he's like, "I have money for all of it." Boom, boom, boom. So I'm just saying, is it possible that Alex Preddy, that he was traumatized by that? Tackled, angry. He was neck deep with this group, and their whole mission is to this. That was not, what did we hear? Oh, you can't protest. This was not about legal carry. It's not about that. And by the way, if you do carry, concealed carry, there is a responsibility that goes with it. It's not about that. It wasn't about the right to protest. There was no protest. They were there to impede the federal officials. And Alex had been tackled to the ground, and he claims they broke his rib, one rib. And this time he was going to get even. This time he was prepared. So it's very possible that they did stop someone who was going to start. It's very possible. It's unfortunate that Kristi Noem and they got way ahead of it before they had any evidence of that. They shouldn't have said anything. But the false narrative about it's protesting and First Amendment and all complete nonsense is what that is. I do want to touch on, there's another part of this that that no one, the locals have no interest in the story. They have no interest. They want to cover every element of they want to talk to this one and that one, but there's part of this story that they don't want to touch on, that obviously I'm going to touch on. But I want to remind you about Watson Materials. This is tough. This is it's freezing outside. There's a lot of snow, potentially more snow coming this weekend. But at some point, we're almost into February. I remember seeing Kevin Meaney years ago, and he said, February's kind of like, I saw him in February. He said, February's kind of like Rhode Island. It's small and it's lousy. But anyhow, Watson Materials. Call Sean today, 401-885-0600, 401-885-0600. Watson Materials. They have the largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. You can depend on Watson Materials. Landscape lining, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone, Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. So the nurse, again, I want to be very clear. Like these people that, so you're saying of course he didn't deserve to die. By the way, he wasn't murdered. Did they screw up? It sounds like they may have screwed up. It does sound that way. Listen, if there's humans involved, there could be a mistake. I mean, that's the more there's going to be mistakes with policing. There's going to be mistakes. Stop and frisk worked in New York. The problem was not everybody getting stopped and frisked was in fact a criminal. But when they did it, it was effective. Policing isn't perfect. Police make mistakes. Firefighters make mistakes. Doctors make mistakes. Attorneys listen, judges make mistakes. So I don't know why people would think that these ICE agents are going to be perfect. So it's very possible that they could have screwed up. But he wasn't a protester, and I think that's important. But here's the part that the locals, I mean the local media, they don't seem to damn, I keep doing that. There it is. The people united will defeat ICE terror. Join the Deportation Defense Network. This is a local group. You see the phone number. And they basically perform the same function that the nurse was a member, that Renee Good was a member of. I want to be very clear. I think there should be more accountability on these groups. And I don't hear anybody saying that. But if you have like that Renee Good, right? The woman that I think part of it could be they just want to distract from Omar. I think that's fair too. I don't think you can rule that out. When you're talking about the amount of fraud involved, but like that Renee Good, I think I have her picture, maybe not. Um, oh, that's right. Then they crashed the church. The that if you have adults going to a group and they're being told, all right, here's what you can do. Like, if you don't get out of your car, you're okay. But don't get out of your car. If you don't get out of your car, you don't have to comply. I have a problem with these organizations. Now, he was a member of this or they become very radicalized and they have this mantra. And I think it's dangerous, by the way. It's cult-like that ICE is not police and they're Nazis and they're Gestapo. And who are these guys? And they're hiding in their masks and we're going to terrorize them. Look what it says. We'll defeat ICE. They use the word it's terror. And call us, get involved, people united, and we're going to win. And these people are joining these organizations and they're learning how to resist arrest, and it's being ingrained in them. They're Nazis. They're the Gestapo. They're evil. They're wearing masks. They're J6ers. That's on CNN. There was a woman saying they're Proud Boys is who's hiding behind there. Trump's Gestapo and blah, blah, blah. I've told you, the ICE people, the ICE agents that I know are former military, and they were retired police, and then they took the $50,000 bonus, and now they're ICE agents. But they have experience with policing. They certainly know how to handle a gun. They were in the military. So, I don't know how the whole thing started with the masks, other than they were, being doxxed and people going after them. You don't have people targeting, going after Massachusetts State Police troopers, not really Rhode Island police, um, or local police departments, and you shouldn't have that. So I understand that nature of it, but just to finish the point, see, I think these types of groups, I think they're feeding them misinformation. I think they have no power over you. They teach them. Nope, they're not police. Do you know how many times I've seen on the pages? They're not police. They have no training. They're Nazis. They're the Gestapo. Think of the venom that's being put out there. It's it's akin to, and this isn't going to be the best example, but if you're a student of history, one of the saddest things of the end of World War II was as we were going inland with taking over Japan, the Japanese people, the Japanese military, anyone that knows, if you know history, you know where I'm going to go with this. There was no one worse to the American POWs than the Japanese. They were far worse. They were worse than the Germans. There was no one worse than the Japanese. But on top of that, they were telling their citizens, if the Americans take over Japan, you need to fight to the death, because if they take over, they're going to eat your children. They're going to kill your children. There were Japanese families when they surrendered and then the Americans were coming in. There were as horrible as this sounds, and it is horrible, but it's history. It's true. It's documented. It's facts. But the Japanese family, they were jumping off cliffs with their children, thinking that the Americans were going to kill them. That's how tortured it was. So, the whole mind control thing, that can work. So when you have people and you convince them that they're doing something noble and these people need to be stopped and they're Nazis and they're looking to separate, they're kidnapping people and they're ripping them apart and no one has seen from them and they're grabbing American citizens. And you see the way they're reacting. I think it's from people like Alex and his friends. and then the locals of this. But you don't see any negative stories about them. They frighten them. It's like the coach that goes in, before the game and gets the team fired up for they're going to take the field, and we're going to go out there and we're going to, run them into the ground and blah blah blah. This is not effective. That woman, Renee Good. Oh, I'm an ice warrior. I'm an anti-ice warrior, and I use my car as a weapon because it's legal, because they're Nazis and they're Gestapo and they're killers, and who knows who's behind that masks. And we're gonna, they take these people instead of being normal and like joining a book club or going to the gym for the month of January. They have them out and like, look at that woman right there. For those that are watching, there she is. I'm sure that's an XXL coat with the goggles. Yeah, it was Alex and his two friends. Why do you think they were wearing goggles? Because they knew they were going to get pepper sprayed. How'd they know they were going to get pepper sprayed? Because they planned on getting pepper sprayed. They planned on it. They planned to harass, impede, and cajole the federal agents. He was just filming. He was documenting. I'm so sick of hearing these people say, I'm documenting. He was just filming. It wasn't a protest. And when you carry I know something about this. Listen, without getting too much into this, when I started covering the protests, the police came to me and my security and said, we would prefer you guys not carry. Because if something happens, all hell is going to break loose. So, I've had that conversation. I don't talk about it a lot with police. They're like, okay, so you have a weapon, you have a concealed carry, but if they get it away from you, a lot of things going to happen. So, and I was with security and they were armed. But then I realized that it only matters if you then actually shoot somebody. Otherwise, if you're just, it's not about that. We had to change tactics to be, but to get into it, my point is there's a responsibility that goes along with concealed carry. So was he legally? Yeah, he apparently was. Not saying that, but what exactly? He certainly had a lot of ammo. What exactly was he doing with it? Did he tell them he had it, or did they find out they had it? Somebody probably panicked. People panic. A gun is final. I've been in a scene after a shooting, and many times the person says, if I could just go, but you can't hit rewind. It's horrible. But when that gun goes off, you can't get a mulligan on that. So, and the thing is, police, federal agents, military, people that operate and work with guns, they know that. That's why they react that way. If you have a police officer who gets like Charlie Kirk shot in the neck, there's no element of, hey man, sorry about that, my bad. Can I get a do-over? There's no do-over with that. That's why they react that way. When somebody pulls the trigger, the first responders, police, ICE, FBI, ATF, even the fire department, they know. They've seen firsthand. There's no, on second thought, there's none of that. The woman at Garden Park last week, no idea if then she regretted it, but it was too late. And they know that. That's why they react that way. So it's very possible that somebody panicked and screwed up. It is very possible for that. I acknowledge that. And Kristi Noem was wrong to come out and immediately start saying things about him. I think that was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. Should have held off on that. Should have waited and said, we're investigating until we get more information. But, and then, whoever the two that fired, they're going to have to be held accountable for that. But don't tell me it was a protest. And the more we're learning about him, Alex, let's see when they go through his phone. Yeah, it's a little, I don't know. It seems to be some missing pieces of the puzzle here. Now, I want to remind you on this sunny Wednesday, as the cold weather is going to continue, but it's sunny out now. Why not pop in and see Marie? It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Stop in and see the Queen. Have you been sick, or maybe someone you know is sick? Marie can either keep you healthy or get you healthy. It's My Health, diagonally across from Davenport Restaurant. If you're in the car right now and you're listening and you're on Mendon Road, stop in and see Marie. I'm jealous. It's My Health for you, for your children. They even have hemp and CBD products for pets. It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Folks, there's still a lot of snow and ice on the roads. I'd be very cautious. I still regard this as don't go out unless you really have to go out. So, all right. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we'll see if anything goes down with Road Patrol Live. Thank you, everybody. Stay warm on this Wednesday.